Good afternoon. First of all, I would like to thank all Singaporeans for the opportunity to be part of the team entrusted with the responsibility to help steer Singapore and Singaporeans through COVID-19. This is unquestionably the worst crisis in a generation. We have had to strike a fine and delicate balance between protecting Singaporean lives and preserving their livelihoods. This pandemic has presented an unprecedented threat to our society and economy. As it has been more virulent and widespread than any other outbreak that we have dealt with in the past. As such, we have had to constantly calibrate our responses based on the evolving global and local situation and the antecedent risks and complexities of the various scenarios. One very good example is the whole of government effort to manage the COVID-19 outbreak in our migrant worker dormitories. In early April, we convened a joint task force comprising officers from Ministry of Manpower, the Ministry of Health, Ministry of Communications and Information, the Singapore Armed Forces, the Home Team, and other agencies to provide support to migrant workers and dormitory operators in the fight against COVID. After close to 5 months of intensive efforts, the Joint Task Force has completed the mammoth task of screening all the migrant workers in all dormitories, and the vast majority of them have been cleared to go back to work. Now we are transitioning towards a more sustainable approach of maintaining and preserving the health of our migrant workers for the longer term. The JTF has passed the baton to the newly formed Ministry of Manpower's Assurance, Care and Engagement Group, or ACE Group for short. The ACE Group will continue to maintain the discipline as well as the cadence of screening, containment, isolation and active contact tracing of cases. Beyond that, they will also play a larger role in the assurance and engagement by ensuring safe working, safe living and safe rest days for migrant workers, as well as reach out to at-risk workers to provide additional medical and mental health support. To engender a strong support network for migrant workers, the ACE Group will also partner representatives from amongst the workers, the dorm operators, employers, and non-governmental organizations. And even as we plan ahead, we will not let our guard down. We will make sure that we reduce the risks of a resurgence of the outbreak in the dormitories. We will provide comprehensive and accessible healthcare services to migrant workers through 3 main channels. First, they can visit one of our 12 medical centers providing primary care services island-wide. Second, they can also seek medical attention via telemedicine anytime on their smartphones through a mobile app. And third, mobile clinical teams will be activated in the event of an emerging cluster so that we can mitigate any outbreak. Other than the physical health, we are also focusing on the mental health and the well-being of our migrant workers. Our forward assurance and support teams, or the FAST teams for short, work closely with the NGOs, the IMH, which is Institute of Mental Health, the Ministry of Health officers, the migrant work community to identify and assist workers who are in need of mental health support. We have also been regularly disseminating mental health materials in the native language of migrant workers to teach them how to identify symptoms of distress, practice relaxation techniques, to look out for one another, and to also provide information on how and where to seek help if needed. This includes guidelines, general helplines, telecounseling services run by NGOs such as Migrant Workers Centre and HealthServe. We are also actively engaging dorm operators and owners to make infrastructural changes to purpose-built dormitories so as to enable our dormitories to become more resilient and to prevent new public health threats to our migrant workers. For example, we are looking to improve ventilation and spacing of the living areas and communal facilities. In addition, we will make available 25,000 beds in quick-built dormitories by early next year, with another 100,000 beds coming on board within the next few years. These are temporary structures, the 25,000 beds in the quick-built dorms. The 100,000, they are in more permanent structures. These temporary structures can be constructed quite quickly so that we can put in place measures soon to house workers further apart for better social distancing. The situation is complex, it will continue to evolve, But our mission will also evolve alongside with it. We will remain ready, we will remain responsive to tackle the new challenges that COVID-19 will bring to us, and we will ensure that our migrant workers and our Singaporean community continues to remain safe and healthy. Turning back to the present, our economy continues to be battered by the storm, and difficult days remain ahead. We need to strike the right balance between saving lives and saving livelihoods. This is a constant daily challenge for all of us as we methodically reopen the economy to our varied trading partners and foreign visitors, whilst ensuring that Singaporeans remain protected from successive waves of infection. As a small country reliant on external trade, we are susceptible to rising nationalism worldwide, as well as growing tensions between our major trading partners. We will need to remain resilient to the very real possibility of disruptions to our global supply chains, which depend heavily on the modern-day business concepts of just-in-time delivery. As most of you would have known, I've spent all of my working life in the private sector, so I can closely relate and resonate with what businesses are going through right now. There's a Chinese idiom, 创业难,守业更难, which means to start a business is really not easy, but sustaining a business is even harder. Indeed, the challenges that face our businesses today are significant. This is regardless of whether you're a startup, a small medium enterprise, or a large MNC. Even in normal times, there were no past precedents or protocols that you can refer to when you get curveballs thrown at you. And this happens frequently, sometimes even on a daily basis. Just like during this COVID-19 crisis, our teams at MOM and MND, our multi-ministerial task force chaired by Minister Gan and Minister Lawrence Wong, on a daily basis, they have to constantly think on their feet to adapt and to adjust as the situation evolves, as more information comes on stream. The only way we can stay ahead is to continually to keep ourselves engaged with the situation as it evolves. 我们要随机应变. Competition is also relentless for smaller firms. It doesn't stop when you survive and you become larger, because then you face even more capable competition, not just locally, but regionally. Those that make it to the big leagues internationally, they then have to pit themselves against other large conglomerates with a wealth of resources and expertise to compete with you and contend sometimes with protectionist rules and regulations in foreign jurisdictions that curtail the ability to compete on a fair and equitable manner. To expand on the sentiment in the Chinese idiom, I would add, 创业难,守业更难,要改革企业更是难上加难. While sustaining a business is harder than starting a business, when you finally have to pivot your business or even the entire country's mindset to be ready for new challenges, it's even more complex and is infinitely more difficult. Even before COVID-19, our businesses and workers were already transforming themselves to prepare for the future economy and the future of work. This crisis has accelerated the changes to our economy and has highlighted the fact that we must be flexible, we must be nimble in pivoting to new areas of opportunity and different ways of operating even after this pandemic recedes. This will not be an easy feat, but our government will walk with our workers, with our businesses to forge ahead on this path, even as we tackle the immediate challenges presented by the crisis. We want to walk with our workers to secure good employment outcomes for every generation. As we navigate through this crisis, we must always remember that our workers are at the heart of our economy, and we must help our workforce to emerge stronger from this crisis. We will make every effort to come together and ensure that we do not have a lost generation of workers. We will support our workforce by securing fairness at work, upholding fair opportunities, fair hiring, fair competition, and fair support for everyone to progress at every stage of their working lives. We promise to walk with every worker, even if we cannot preserve every job. Our national efforts to do so will be through the National Jobs Council, led by Senior Minister Tharman. We will ensure that our job seekers have fair opportunities and equitable ones at a good job by bringing together 100,000 such opportunities through the SG United Jobs and Skills Package. I'm particularly concerned about the growing concentration of disengaged Singaporeans in two key groups. One, the young graduates, and two, mature workers. Walking with our young graduates. Firstly, I've heard feedback from residents on how their children who have recently graduated are worried about securing a job in the current challenging labour market, and how this may affect their aspirations, their ambitions, and their career trajectories. We are working very hard. We're working very hard to keep our young workers engaged and inspired as they embark on their journeys into the working world amidst this crisis. I want to assure all of our young Singaporeans that although you may seem to have been dealt with a difficult starting hand, we will do all we can to ensure that your generation will still flourish and fulfill your potential. Even though some of our young workers may find it challenging to secure a job opportunity during this period, we're committed to helping them build their professional skill sets, their experience and networks through the SG United Traineeships program. As an example, one such young graduate is Mr. Foo Sek Eng. He's a 26-year-old who graduated from the Nanyang Technological University in July 2019 with a degree in mechanical engineering. Sek Eng was looking out for suitable opportunities that would allow him to pursue his interests in technology and product management, and was attracted to the wide range of traineeships on offer. He has since joined Singtel as a trainee in July 2020. As part of his traineeship, Sek Eng has been applying his engineering background to address product innovation and data analytics issue. He aims to develop a well-rounded skill set through his traineeship, honing not just his technical competencies, but also his project management, business development, and interpersonal skills. We're very heartened by Sek Eng's positive attitude and his enthusiasm in learning and growing through his traineeship opportunity. Even though it is a traineeship role, it has been a meaningful experience for him to build up industry-relevant skills as well as networks, and this will stand him in better state to secure a good full-time job. And I hope perhaps spur him off on this entrepreneurship journey to do a startup in his own field of interest, and especially when the economy recovers. And I hope this example inspires many others in his generation, and this will give our young workers confidence that there are opportunities to flourish in spite of this crisis. We also want to foster the grit and the innovative spirit of our young entrepreneurs, whose companies will be a key part of our strong Singaporean core of enterprises that can compete internationally and offer high-end quality jobs locally. One such other enterprise is Lucence, which was founded by Dr. Tan Meng Han in 2016. He chose to set up his own company to build a world-class medical technology in a very highly competitive industry. Why did he do this? Because he wanted to strike out on his own. He wanted to put his name and Singapore's name on the world map and successfully compete with global conglomerates. In doing so, his company has achieved, outside of the US, the only US federally licensed medical diagnostic lab in Southeast Asia. Lucence has also developed the world's first blood test that detects both cancer-causing genes and viruses in order to identify the best treatment for cancer patients, and it has been used for thousands of patients across the US and Asia. The company has also pivoted in this COVID-19 crisis to developing more sensitive saliva test kit using this deep throat saliva, and we're now doing studies to see how we can adapt it for use locally. On top of that, the company has also established laboratories in Silicon Valley, in the Suzhou Industrial Park, and it continues to expand their operations amidst the global pandemic. And they have plans to hire more research and medtech professionals in Singapore. Working with our mature workers, this group mature workers is near and dear to my heart because I'm in their age group. Our mature workers in their 40s and 50s have contributed a good part of their lives to our economy so far. Most of them continue to be willing and they are able to contribute to our economy for many, many more years to come. But even before the pandemic struck, many were already concerned about their job securities and the challenges of how they can adapt to the new technology and how this new technology has transformed their job scope and their work. With the current weak labor market conditions, many are worried about losing their jobs, having to compete with younger counterparts or even foreign workers for limited job opportunities. The reality is that many sectors and many jobs that have been worst hit by this crisis may take a long time to bounce back, and some of them may never come back. So these companies would have to pivot their operations or ride on new opportunities that arise. These permanent job opportunities will change in scope. They may remain scarce until the economy picks up again. We have thus designed opportunities for mid-career individuals under the SG United Jobs and Skills package to allow our middle-aged mature workers to seize this opportunity to upskill and reskill for quality job roles and good future careers. As our mature workers strive to prepare themselves for new job roles, we must also make sure that employers consider them fairly and offer them good opportunities for improvement and progression. Meritocracy is the foundational principle of Singapore society, and we must demonstrate this to the world by taking a stand against employers that discriminate against workers based on nationality, based on age, gender, or any other factors that are irrelevant to the job. Mature workers possess a significant treasure trove of experiential knowledge and practice wisdom. This experiential knowledge and practice wisdom cannot be replaced by or gleaned from academic pursuits or qualifications. Like what they say in Chinese, 姜是越老越辣的. The older the ginger, the spicier it gets. There is significant value for companies to leverage on that expertise and the skill sets of our mature and experienced Singaporeans. I want to also reassure our businesses that we are neither inward-looking nor are we turning away global talents and investments. We will continue to welcome those who bring in valuable skills in short supply. Such top-tier workers allow our businesses to build the best teams in our country so that we remain globally competitive while also helping at the same time to attract high-value investments and anchor high-value activities in Singapore. And our local workers can also learn from the expertise of such skilled foreign workers. And to this end, I'm glad that Mr. Pritam Singh and the Workers' Party also agrees and aligned with us on the need to support the growth of our Singapore core, infusing it with global talent. There are two examples that Mr. Singh cited with regards to MOM. These two companies, amongst the 47 companies being added to the Fair Competition Framework watch list, and asked why we had allowed them to hire as many as they did before deciding to put them on a watch list. I think what's important was that if you read from the same media release, the companies actually hired 2,800 local PMETs, more than the 2,000 e-passes than they have given out. And the universe that we are looking at, there are more than 35,000 companies in Singapore that hire these EPs. Some of them will have problems of higher concentrations of foreigners compared to their peers, even though, prima facie, the EP applications have met qualifications and salary criteria. Regardless, we will not allow companies to practice wanton discrimination against our local talent. Ministry of Manpower has been enhancing these frameworks. We have been stepping up the surveillance and enforcement. And in fact, we expect these businesses operating in Singapore to invest more effort in strengthening our Singaporean core. In the current difficult economic climate, it is all the more important that our workers are given fair opportunities to find meaningful work. And rest assured, we at MOM not only have been working doubly hard to monitor compliance amongst these companies, we have continued to step up surveillance and enforcement actions against egregious offenders. I mean, in the long run, curtailment of work pass privileges is not an adequate measure. I've come from the private sector all my life. I've run a sizable global conglomerate in healthcare. I think that if we think we can choke off key manpower supply by curtailing employment passes or establishing a quota, I think this is going to be infinitely more painful for the companies than any other penalties that you can think of imposing on. So I would seriously and crucially advise against that kind of thinking. We will give, at MOM, we will give Singaporean job seekers a stronger boost by working with businesses to give more serious consideration to Singaporeans when hiring, especially those who are willing to adjust their expectations and adapt. We will also scale up our proactive efforts to increase our Singaporean job seekers' chances of landing a suitable job. At the same time, I would also like to make an appeal to all of our job seekers, regardless of age and background. In this difficult economic climate, we may have to be a bit more realistic in our expectations. We have to keep an open mind on the available opportunities. With the support from the government, this will give us the chance to embark on a new career path in a sector or role that some of us may not have considered before. We also want to work with employers to emerge stronger together. The government will also support businesses through a variety of targeted steps. First, for businesses that are seeing new opportunities, such as those in the ICT, biopharma, agri-tech, advanced manufacturing sectors, and those developing low-carbon technologies, we will help them grow. We will create a more attractive environment for co-optation, which is for businesses who compete to also cooperate with each other, with one another for new opportunities. One recent example of this cooperation was between Formlabs and Tootsud, NUS, NUH, and companies with 3D printing capabilities to rapidly develop swabs used in the COVID-19 test kits. They formed a consortium to leverage on digital manufacturing and took only 7 weeks to reach product readiness. Local companies like Structo, Eye2Eye, and Forefront Medical, they were involved in the conceptualization and the entire production development cycle, and they seized the opportunity to repurpose their available 3D printers to mass produce 3D printed nasopharyngeal swabs, which continue. There was a massive run on this particular item. This is key to doing that swab in our nasopharyngeal region itself to pick up the virus so that we can send it for PCR testing. So there was a huge shortage in global supply due to demand surge and supply chain disruptions. The ability of our private sector, our research institutions, our government agencies to come together quickly to meet new needs and to seize new opportunities put us in a good state for co-optation, to compete globally and also to cooperate globally. Secondly, for those businesses that are facing lower demand now, but will eventually recover, we will help them preserve their core competencies, their core capabilities. This continues to put them in the best position to seize new opportunities when the economy recovers. For businesses in industries that have permanently changed, we will help them reinvent themselves and help them pivot into new markets with new products. Many of the mass market tourism and social entertainment companies are already thinking along these lines. In fact, there are opportunities with these industries for Singapore to lead the way in the development of new business models that can be adopted globally. For example, to prepare for the safe resumption of meetings conferences, and other business-oriented events, Singapore Tourism Board has developed a safe business event risk management framework in consultation with the industry and in alignment with international best practices. STB is trialing this framework with 2 pilot events before scaling up to other events. The first event, the IEEE International Conference on Computational Electromagnetics, was held successfully just a week ago from the 24th to 26th of August 2020. So to stay ahead, Mr. Speaker, sir, it is crucial that we develop a strong Singapore core of enterprises that can grow and compete internationally and offer high-ended quality job opportunities to our workforce. This is not going to be an easy feat, given the fact that our domestic market is too small to sustain them. To succeed, we must find new ways to transform and innovate, not just incubate these ideas, but developing generations of Singaporeans that can put these ideas into action and commercialize them with strong intellectual property protection and validation by our government agencies. We have started to do this with business leaders through Singapore Together Alliances for Action, set up by the Emerging Stronger Task Force. The alliances are industry-led coalitions that will rapidly prototype and execute ideas in key growth areas for Singapore, such as robotics and supply chain digitalization. We have launched national innovation challenges to develop industry-led solutions to the challenges faced by businesses. For example, the Safe Reopening Construction Challenge led by the Building and Construction Authority, BCA, and Kajima Group. This seeks to establish a system that enables construction site continuity planning. This will allow project development activities to resume safely and sustainably. We must also continue to encourage partnerships with internationally renowned institutions, share and learn their best practices, and cooperate and invest to expand our talent base and our repertoire of ideas and innovations. And this is something I hope I can contribute to and achieve in MTI. To conclude, we must never waste a crisis, because in every crisis there are also opportunities. 危机有危险就有机会. Together, as a nation, we must overcome our differences in ideologies, in our beliefs, personalities, and we must unite together in constructive feedback, in constructive engagement, and we have to work together to overcome this pandemic and the pains that it has brought us. I hope, and it's my sincere and earnest desire, that all parties can come and work together to develop a new spirit of resilience, fortitude, and unity that reflects the same tenacity and grit of our forefathers. Then hopefully, years from now, we can look back and say that we have overcome the crisis of a generation, and we've continued to live long and prosper. Already, many of our agencies in the biomedical ICT sectors are making significant inroads in the development of novel test kits for COVID-19. Several of these areas include the use of automation and robotics to improve turnaround times in the processing of these tests, while improving the safety and protection of our lab technicians and bolstering the contact tracing applications. Given the huge amount of creative and intellectual capital in our country, we have the means and the resources to transform many of our industries and services to come out ahead. Every country dreams big. In Singapore, we not only dream big, we also make it happen, and we bring our dreams to reality. Think about Jurong Island, think about Changi Airport. Because we all work hard together, because we have a collective desire to build a better and brighter future for Singapore together, not just for ourselves, but for our children, our grandchildren, and hopefully our great-grandchildren. To continue to do well and thrive in this brave new world, we must be exceptional. Exceptional in the way we dream, in the way we hope, in the way we aspire, exceptional in the way we implement and the way we execute. But most important of all, I hope that we can be exceptional in the way we care for one another and in the way we carry one another. Because this is the only way I know that our country of less than 4 million fellow citizens can transform, can leapfrog, can thrive, and prosper in this brave new world. Mr. Speaker, sir, thank you very much. I support the motion.